show you how to do it next time.
I always think of it. We get down and work pretty hard.
But I think you're hanging out there. Yeah. Stuff in the shelter. Set it all through problems and solve them all. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you.
I talked to your wife yesterday.
I'm playing. So how'd you guys link up? Right out of college.
Can you make it through? I'll take some time.
How did it break up?
You're fine. Good job. You're hired.
Walked you in there.
That's okay.
Probably a good chunk of Irish.
So Jersey's were not going to see that's something. I don't know how lots of
teach you to get up.
That's why we need grain elevators.
Why don't you sit here? It's just okay, Lisa.
Didn't pay any attention.
How you doing, Dan?
Turn around twice and you got yeah, I think so.
Any more bandits? It doesn't look a whole lot different down here, but sure, nice and
It feels so nice. How's she doing? she's doing good.
Satellite beach is right there. Right there by where the rockets go off. We've seen a lot of rockets. Get out of the balcony and the inside comes out into the water. We can actually see the fire all over. They disappear, and then you hear the sound.
Welcome to all of you. First and foremost, I do want to say thank you. Just thanks for coming. Maybe you know who I am, maybe you don't. I am Pastor Larson's best-looking child. It's been proven, it's scientific, so I'm going to go with it. So, I'm the middle one, I'm David Larson, it's easy for me to remember. So today we celebrate my dad's 35 years since his ordination in ministry, and I'm 35 years old, so I was kind of usually, how long is it in the past year? I said no. So, we're just thrilled that you're all here. A few quick introductions, and then we're going to share a few words, and then we're going to be careful with this, but if you have a couple of quick, we'll give you an opportunity this time as well. So I want to introduce, again, everyone, you know my dad, my dad's still there with my mom, and of course we're honoring them today. My brother, Danny, will stand. So this is the oldest, so he is a pastor in the Phoenix area, Atonement Lutheran. And his two boys, Brandon and Patrick, if they want to stand up. So, yeah. So if you were here this morning, you have seen the oldest, Patrick. He was our crucifer carrying the cross during the services. An awesome job. And Brendan, it's great to see him here. Some of you know the story. When Danny and Megan were driving in town from Phoenix, Brendan's fever started to get dangerously high. So they literally came into town, went right to the ER, and he's been in the hospital actually since then. But God has given him healing. We thank God for that. And so he's here, and that is fantastic. So we're so grateful. So they're here. Again, Danny preached this morning. You got a chance to hear him. I'm next in line, like I said, and so we've got my family. I'm up in Minnesota, as you maybe you'll tell that the lot was, oh yeah. Minnesota. You know, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you a joke really quick. I shared this with some people. Maybe you've heard about it. Maybe you've heard the joke about the golden phone. All right, I shared this actually with Mike Zender, who just walked in. So don't spoil the joke. So there's a guy who's a businessman. He would make regular travels around the country. He started to notice something because he'd be in different towns for Sunday services, and he started to notice up on the altar area that there was a golden phone in each one. And finally he went up to the pastor and said, you know, what's with that golden phone? He said, well, actually it's a direct line to God. He said, really? So if I pick up the phone, I can talk to God? He said, yeah, but it's a little pricey. It's $1,000 a minute. And so he would go from town to town, the same thing, see the golden phone, golden phone, golden phone. And one day he's up in Minnesota, and he sees the golden phone up on the altar, and so once again he goes to the pastor and says, so is that another direct line to God? He said, yeah. He said, well, yes, it's $1,000 a minute. He said, no, it's 25 cents a minute. He said, why is it only 25 cents a minute? Well, because here's a local call. There you go. God's country. So I'm up in Minneapolis. I serve a church just outside of the Twin Cities, St. John and Woodbury. I also serve as a chaplain for the Minneapolis Police Department and Metro Transit Police Department. So this one is number 4 of our 5. This is Miss Lydia. So Heather, where's Heather? Heather's standing. So that's my wife Heather, and then we have 5. So our oldest Grace is right there. Eli and Micah. The boys are on. And then Lydia, and then Miss Abigail is 5 months old, so she's back there as well. So we're honored to be here. And then the next in line is my sister, Eden. Where is Eden? She's upstairs. All right. Well, she's married to Larry, and I think is Larry here? There's Larry. So Pastor Larry here. So Pastor Larry is connected through Peace Lutheran, but he runs a ministry, Salt of the Earth Communities. I work with a lot of congregations in the Denver area with missional movements and stuff. And so they have 3. So their oldest is Joy. There's Miss Joy. And then Mr. Isaac and Mr. Asher are probably with my boys, which they're somewhere in the state. We think that. So again, all told, we're very blessed, obviously, with having the 3 of us and then our spouses, and then giving mom and dad 10 grandkids, and 10 and no more, unless somebody surprises. It's not going to be us. We're stopped at 5, so 5 is enough. To be honest with you, I wasn't planning on talking much, but there is a saying that the reason pastors wear microphones is because we really like to hear ourselves talk. So I'll cut myself off at some point. But I just want to share a couple of quick words, and then, like I said, we're going to open up. And then we do actually have one musical act in honor of my dad today, and we'll do that in a little bit. So, you know, obviously, it's interesting when you grow up in a pastor's family, and, you know, get to know many of you. When Danny, Eden, and myself were growing up, we weren't sure of much in life, but there was one thing that we were completely sure of, is that we would never, ever, ever go into the ministry, or in my sister's case, marry someone in the ministry. And so I went to college because I wanted to be a high school history teacher, and I wanted to coach high school football. And I quickly realized I didn't want to teach high school, and so I transferred. And you know, sometimes people have really grand stories of how they went into ministry. Mine, I transferred to go to ministry, and I still remember the dinner when I told mom and dad that I was going to transfer from UNC to Concordia, Nebraska to do ministry. My mom got really excited, and my dad just sat there and stared at me. I left, I'm like, that's not the response I was expecting. But, you know, part of it, you know, youthful arrogance. I do remember one key reason why I wanted to go to Concordia to do ministry was, and this is an honest, to goodness truth, because I figured if my dad could do it, I could do it too. So it was harder than it looked. Shows you how good of a job he did. So my brother, likewise, one of the big reasons that he went to Concordia in Irvine was to get as far away as he could from me. And understandably so. I don't blame you for a second, but out there met his wife, had a great time. But he went to school to be a director of Christian education. And actually was doing his internship in California that he had that call to go into the ministry. And then my sister, the guy that actually I wanted her to marry, who ended up, sort of being a stalker, but he was a chef, and he made these crepes that were unreal crepes. When my sister broke up with him, I couldn't understand why. I don't know his last name, I know nothing about him, but I want those crepes every time I come home. And then all of a sudden she met Larry, and actually I still remember the first time Larry told me that he was dating Eden, because he was a fourth-year seminarian and I was a second-year seminarian. So he got back from his vicarage at Peace, and we would often work out at the same time at the gym at the seminary, and so it was in the morning and we're talking, and he's like, hey, by the way, because actually my wife and I were trying to set him up with one of our friends, and he said, well, I don't think that's going to work out because I've been talking to Eden. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, who's Eden? He's like, it's your sister. Of course, my first thought was, I thought he was dating a chef. But then obviously then that, and just the way God works and we got so many other stories, but for me, and I don't want to keep on rambling, but you look at a person's life, and for my dad, we're not even done. He's got plenty of years of ministry ahead of him, but you look at a person's life and you see the value that they have with the ripples they have, and the ripples that my dad has had in our individual lives, and then in our congregation's lives, and in the citizens of the communities that we live in, and through the grandkids and through all of you, the gospel ripples that have occurred because of my dad's faithfulness to the gospel is just immeasurable. And so today, that's really what we honor, is the way God has used him for 35 plus years. So can we give my dad a huge, huge round of applause? So, at this time, and again, if you do want to talk, you got to keep it brief because we don't want to be here for the next 10 hours. But does anybody want to share a story or two, perhaps something really embarrassing for them?
Yes.
All right, we'll let you just shout. If you got one, just stand up, shout it out.
I've got one. In fact, I've got two, but they'll be quick.
Here, let me give this to you.
Oh, there we go.
Everybody can hear your story.
First one I have is, about 5 years ago now, I went to a meeting and came back to Pastor Larson. I told him about the Severe Weather Shelter Network. Pastor looked at me, I'm not mincing words here at all, but he said, this is how I want to grow our church. Now, he made the decision to move in that direction. I was not convinced. This is the second story. I was not convinced, and Pastor Larson, it's thanks to you that we all heard from the pulpit. You said one Sunday, I don't want them in my sanctuary. We all felt like that. I felt like that. And I was going to be the one that was in charge of it. Pastor, you changed our hearts. You changed our minds. I thank you for that. And if it wasn't for your kind words, on that moment when you said, this is how I want to change our church, and then from the pulpit, we would never have had the Severe Weather Shelter Network here. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? A brother. He said in his sermon that he has plenty of stories, so I'm excited for this.
This is when you got home late that one day, right?
I was actually the good kid. I never had a curfew. Did you have a curfew, David?
Oh, we don't need to talk about that.
All right.
This is about that.
I only have one story because my sermon was insanely long. I'm realizing this after the fact. I mean, I don't care, but it was really long.
We're good.
And this isn't even my story. I was working on Monday and Tuesday trying to get everything done before I left out here. And my grandpa called me. Grandpa Larson, who lives out in Sun City, Arizona. How old? He's 92? 92 years old. And if you've ever met my Grandpa Larson, he is as sharp as a tack. Now, if you want to know about sharpness with nails and all the other things, you can ask my dad when he's nailing a roof and what he does. All right. Are we going to talk about you almost burning down a church too? Okay. Oh, okay. I have a lot of stories, but I'm only doing one. So, Grandpa told me this one story because his head's already getting a little big. I can tell it. It's getting more shiny. So, Grandpa said, well, need to tell the story about when he decided he wanted to run away. And so, I might not tell exactly right, but what happened was he went and told Grandma and Grandpa, I'm running away. And he packed up, and Grandpa said, well, you can run away, but you cannot take your new winter coat that you were just given. Dad did not run away because he couldn't take his new winter coat. That's the only story I'm going to give you. If you want to hear about the almost burning down the church story, you need to ask Pastor Larson. That was a blast when I watched that. All right.
It's just, math, tumbleweeds, plus fire, plus a pastor. You get what you get.
Yeah, that was the second time we almost burned down the church.
Yeah, but all the volunteer firemen were also members of the church.
You ever seen one of those conversion vans on two wheels going and turning? I never had it until they were rushing towards that fire. That was cool. They also lost his glasses in the fire too, didn't you? So if you ever want to give him a present that he will hate, give him a tumbleweed. All right? That's it, I'm done.
Yeah, I just got to share, because with Danny brought this up, we got in the road there. Just really fast. I still remember, I think Dad had just started at Peace. And Dad used to be an avid softball player. Not always the greatest softball catcher, because there was a game where he went for a pop fly and he went over the glove and smacked him and broke his nose. But what I remember most from that is his first words to us kids was, "Don't tell your mom." And even at that age, I remember looking at him thinking, I think she'll figure it out.
Didn't he say the same thing when he slid into third base head first and he jammed his finger and cut off your wedding ring?
Let's just put it this way. If you all wonder why the cost of healthcare is going up, I'm not saying it's all him, but...
Yeah, my name is Phil Saba. I'm from Peace Lutheran. I've been a member over there since 1957, and Pastor John came to our church in '92, I think it was. And anyhow, if it wasn't for the pastor keeping our church together, we had some problems, but he did a wonderful job. So I invited he and his wife and the new pastor to our house for Lebanese food. And I taught him how to play Mexican train. You still play it?
That's where that evil came from.
Anyhow, Pastor, I love you and many more years.
Well, on that one, I say, God bless you, but if you had never taught me that game, I would have been very happy. Because we don't have to play it every time we get together.
I know a lot of you that probably hate
He
you.
wins. He finds a way to win. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
So, I'm Stephen Pruitt, and I was the director of music here for a number of years. And this is my wife, Diane, and she was a member of Peace, Arvada, and thanks to Pastor John and Marilyn, she became a Pruitt. And we are moving to Virginia to be closer to my father on August 4th, and we were going through the house cleaning up stuff. We have lots of stuff. And there was something really special that Diane found, and she knows the story behind it, but I don't, but it's directly related to
Well, I am actually one of the Mexican trained players. And I was told from the very beginning that game does not have rules.
I know the rules.
But there was no piece of paper with those rules. So, I used to play lots of jokes on Pastor Larson. 609 golf balls, and a poem written just for him that was in the pulpit. We had refrigerator boxes that were decorated like a bathroom, an outdoor bathroom, and it had the most beautiful toilet seat with the University of Nebraska. And there was Big Mouth Billy Bass that almost scared him once I put it in his office and he walked by it and he started singing. Then Pastor and Marilyn and some other folks from Peace came up to my house in Evergreen and we had dinner. Are you okay? And anyway, doesn't this look like a normal flower that would be just lovely to be sitting in front of you? Well, this began playing when Pastor Larson came back to his seat, and I want to re-gift this to him.
Thank
I'm burning the ring of fire.
We could keep going. I'm sure we keep going and going because we've all got stories. And again, I think for me at least, it's a testament to who my dad is. I know for a fact I wouldn't be remotely close to the person I am today if it weren't for my dad. And I'm sure many of us could say very similar things. And so that's why we're thankful. But again, we also know he'll be the first one to say it's not about him. He's been obedient to the gospel, obedient to his calling as a light of Christ. And so we're so thankful for that. And so to actually kind of illustrate this a little bit, we need to put the screen up. I'm going to invite two ladies forward who actually wrote and choreographed a song that's going to be hard to hear. You may not be able to hear the words, so afterwards they might just share what the exact words are. But we're going to invite up two of Grandpa's granddaughters, so my daughter Grace and Miss Joy. Come on up. So they are going to sing a song and they're going to dance to it. And we'll see how this goes.
Every time I look at you, let's just start over. Every time I look at you, I see smiles and happiness. Take this step, stumble and fall. Give me hope and take care of them all. Whoa, oh. Take care of them all. Whoa, oh. Take care of them all. Every time I try to catch you, I don't find the way. So you have to help me because you're my master. I'm in a dark cave and I don't know what to do. You are my flashlight. Whoa, oh. We love you, Grandpa. We love you, Grandpa. We love you, Grandpa.
Just share over a couple of the lyrics that were in there. Go over a couple of the words that you just sung. What was that?
Grandpa.
What did you say? What did you just say about Grandpa? We love. All right, very good. All right. All right, good job, girls. All right, so obviously afterwards, stick around as long as you like, chat, mingle, grab more cake, and all that stuff. But I want to just turn things over to my dad and my mama, and I'm going to share a few words with you guys.
And Asher. Oh yeah, Marilyn will start.
I don't get to do this very much, but this man, how did I get this man? I don't know. God is so good, and I can't tell you how proud I am of him. I was telling someone today that he works insane hours. And the thing is, he's doing what he loves, and I love what he's doing. I love watching him interact with everybody. I love seeing how much he loves you. I love how much this man who, I knew nothing about sports when we got married. I know a lot. But this man was just, he's so into sports and stuff, and then on the other hand, the love of God that permeates, and the love he's shown our family and me through all these years. He has stood by me and our children and, our extended, really weird family. But he's just been lovely. There's only one story that I want to tell you. And this is one thing that made me fall in love with this young man at St. John's College in Winfield, Kansas. First, I thought he was married. We were both freshmen, but he looked very mature as he was cleaning the windows in the campus center. But we got to know each other and started falling in love. And well, that wasn't working because I didn't go there to get married. I was going to be a missionary. And God answered that and said, well, no, your kids will do that. And so, anyway, the one thing that I learned about John is he loves sports and music and Jesus. And the one thing that was so endearing about him was he was telling me about when he was little and he got lost one summer. He was on a camping trip with his family. And he was lost for a while. And do you know what he did to comfort himself? He sang the whole liturgy. I don't know if it's page page 15, or page 5, page 15. I prefer Matins on page 32. This is my husband, and that's his heart. And you guys, he loves you so much. You guys, I love you too. But we know how much you love us, and there is no way for us to understand fully what all you guys do for us in prayer, behind the scenes, or anything else. I think we'll never fully understand the goodness of God's people to us. Well, in heaven, we'll know. But I wanted to just tell you thank you. Thank you for letting us be in your life.
I don't know why she's walking away. I am a very blessed man. From the time that I started college, receiving education, going on to work in various congregations through the years in the seminary, and then, of course, the call to northeastern Colorado. There in 1983, it would have been probably right around the end of April, I found out I'm coming to Colorado. And then I found out that that wasn't the Colorado that I knew. That was a Colorado that looked a lot like Kansas and Nebraska and South Dakota. It was flat. There weren't any hills around, but there were gracious people. We raised our family there for 9 years. When we arrived, Danny was a year and a half, 2 years old. David was just 6 months, and Eden will be born shortly after. And they showed us about the church. They showed us about what God's people do. And when I had to leave there, it broke my heart. But the people at Peace in Arvada were gracious, even teaching us Mexican trade. So, Phil, I have a reputation in this congregation, especially among the younger people, that somehow I cheat in Mexican trade. And, well, but Phil taught me the rules, so. But for the years that we were able to serve together there, they were wonderful years. We got to meet the most gracious people. And I knew nothing about Ascension in Littleton. I knew nothing about Littleton when I came down here. I made a few calls visiting the hospital here in Littleton, but nothing about who was here. But you showed me that. And I thank God for that. So I look at 35 years and I'm so appreciative of what God has been able to do through a kid that had, maybe a few challenges in life. And then we get to work together. And I thank God for that. I thank God for my family coming from Minnesota and Arizona, even making that hour trip way up to Westminster. And that's a long trip sometimes, especially when you're taking Joy and Isaac and Asher. That's long. But for them and for you to come this afternoon, I appreciate that. Good to see a few pastors here. I see Pastor Langdon is coming in, and Pastor Schlechte was here, and of course, my good old brother-in-law, Pastor Seibel. So it's good to see some fellow ministers, and maybe there's even more that are with us today. So I want to thank you for spending this day, for being part of my life, being part of the life of Marilyn, being part of Danny, David, and Eden's life in one way or the other. I appreciate that. Well, I'm going to have a prayer because you've got to have a prayer. And I understand that there is some cake left. I don't know, how many cakes did you guys order? What? Only 15? 13 cakes. So everybody gets 3 pieces to take home with them. But let's have a prayer. Lord, your goodness to us is amazing. We are able to receive into our cups far more than what we deserve. You crown us with your forgiveness. You shower us with your love. You remind us that we are yours, always. Thank you for the gift of the church, for the people at St. Paul's in Venango, at St. Paul's in Amherst, Peace in Arvada, and Ascension in Littleton. You have embraced those congregations for years. Continue to shower upon them your blessings and use them for your purposes. I thank you that their life and mine have intersected, and we've been able to work together for you. Lord, grant much grace to wherever your Spirit rules and moves. Thank you for this day. I pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Enjoy more food.